The Kirky B Show with Vinnie Colaiuta.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this man needs no introduction. The one and only Vinnie Colaiuta. My brother, how are you, man?
Hey, Kirky. I'm good. How are you, my brother?
Good, man. I'm doing this new podcast, The Kirky B Show, and I'm so honored. And it's such a pleasure to have you on. And
Well, thanks for having me, man.
of course, man. I mean, when I was conceptualizing this, I thought, who can I have on? And I mean, I'm having anyone and everyone that's interesting to me. Hopefully, to the
Yeah.
audience, they're interesting, and of
Yeah.
course, you're always interesting.
Oh, man, thank you. And likewise. And we've been friends for many, many years. So I'm honored, bro. So
Many
let's dive
years,
in.
God, since the '80s, I think.
Yeah. Whoops. That's
Yeah,
true.
right. Yeah, that was yesterday
Yeah.
in the time machine.
Exactly.
But man, I want to dive in direct. Like, here we are,
Yeah.
2023, post bonkerness, which we will not get into. That's a whole
Well, not
other
really close
podcast
to, I was just going to
altogether.
say it's a continuum of it, but
Right.
yeah, it is a whole other thing. Absolutely.
It is a whole other thing and requires a lot of time and energy and of course another podcast altogether. But I wanted to ask you because
I just did one on it,
yes, go check that out.
on, on,
And
on that very thing. So,
yeah, and if you guys aren't familiar, Breakfast with Vinny on all streaming platforms right now, Apple Podcasts. Oh God, they're all on all of them, right, Vin?
well, it's on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and its own website, www.breakfastwithvinny.com. So check it out.
There you go. The link will be below. So man, here we are, 2023. We're ending this. We're going into an election year. We're going into the big topic right now with everyone is AI. But I want to rewind the tape, if you will, because we were just talking about tape the other day, 2-inch tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
2-inch tape was the medium in which you started on, and of course I started on.
Mhm.
But then now it's digital, and now moving forward, and let's not forget the drum machines. And I
Yeah.
know that was a big part of when you were on the scene, and there was that click over from humans to the machines. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that for you guys was either embraced or it was just like, what the hell's going on? Let's throw it in the swimming pool.
Yeah. Well, I remember when the first Lin drum machine came out, and I had the second iteration of it, which was really the first mass production one that kind of took off, I think. So I embraced it, and I had a little synthesizer, and I was just sitting around using it to write stuff, and people were like, oh, it's going to take work away, but it didn't. It didn't. I mean, I kept working, and my whole studio career was on an upward ascension in terms of volume. um it continued on an upward trajectory, let's put it that way. And so I think that whole kind of phenomena is sort of like it it will continue to exist as an adjunct until until there's economic interference, or the AI sort of makes it almost impossible, not impossible, but it sort of takes over the whole process to a point where people just will say, well, what are we even doing this for? Or they'll just, because of that, say, no, we're humans, and we have a creative process, and we're still going to do it our way. I mean, it's impossible to be a fortune teller to see how it's going to play out. But you were talking about 2-inch tape. Yeah, when I started, there was just one 2-inch tape machine. That was before they linked them together, and people were still doing publishing demos, and where musicians would come in and play on demos before they started doing demos on machines. but I just think that it did. I didn't really see. I saw drummers jumping on all of that stuff. A lot of us bought the machines, and then the Simmons drums came out, and then the thing that was started happening was people had racks of stuff that they were triggering with reverbs and all sorts of stuff, and then they were taking those things into movie sessions, and they were getting rental fees for them. So there was that whole thing that happened, but I think that it didn't really adversely affect. It didn't ever adversely affect me, that's for sure. Actually, come to think of it, we were having to play along with programmed stuff, and we had to play very, very accurately. If you think back about that, the days of Scritti Politti and things were very, very mechanistic in terms of the sort of time divisions, and the drummer had to play along with that very accurately. It was a way to sort of sharpen your skills in that area to be very good at doing that. And when you're recording with engineers who are really, really great, you can hear every little thing, so you can't really cheat. And so it really was a way to sharpen your skills, and in such a way, I'm hearing something like a jet. Anyway, sorry. But in such a way that you couldn't really. This is before Pro Tools. You had to do it top to bottom. It wasn't like, oh, I had it really tight for 4 bars. No, stop! Now punch me in. Now punch me out. Never mind. You'll fix it anyways. Put it on a grid. Or the whole thing of you play 4 bars. Like, come on in. Sucks. You couldn't do that then. So
Right. That's one thing I've been pushing for. I don't know about you, but because all of a sudden the grid now is the standard.
Yeah.
And if you're hiring me, I'm always pushing for hire me for my time. Let's get rid of the grid and let me put my humanity, my stank on it, my individual feel. Because you and I were talking about that the other day, about how we would listen to the radio and we would know it was you or Jeff or Bissonette or Keltner. We would know and distinguish which drummer was who on what track and with what artist. Now, it could be Joe Schmo from Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it's really weird because you're talking about being able to distinguish drummers, 10 different drummers playing the simplest beat. So that speaks volumes. And, like yourself, I do the same thing. When I record, I treat the DAW like a tape machine. I treat it like a tape machine, and I'm going to play it top to bottom. And part of it is because that was how we developed our skill set back in the day. Because time was money or whatever, and you wanted to make the right. But it was good to be able to make the right decisions quickly, especially thinking that, hey, I'm documenting this forever. I don't have time to hem and haw. I got to think of the right thing to play right now. So it sharpened that kind of intuitive skill as well. But the other thing is that we were used to playing songs that lyrically told a story. So the second verse comes along, it's the story has developed, so you may not play it the same way. So there was that. Whereas now it's kind of like it's more linear. People don't really care about that as much.
Right.
Obviously not, because there's been harmonic elements that have been removed as well. Whereas the chorus a lot of times is just more stacked vocal harmonies, same 4 changes, but that's it.
Right.
Wow, great.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, but I don't mean to demean that song form change completely, because, I've heard people that were brilliant that have taken that format, and done great things with it. But that doesn't mean that it justifies removing harmony. You follow what I'm saying? It just means that the really talented ones will make the best of it. They're going to make the best lemonade out of those lemons. That's all.
Well, I mean, you've played with the master that pretty much was able to bridge his bebop and his jazz skills into this new form called rap and hip hop, and that was the great Herbie Hancock. Remember when he came up with dun dun So many people were just like, what is he
Yeah,
doing?
rocket.
But when you listen harmonically, the groove, everything is there. He just was able to, like you said, embrace that and take it
Yeah,
to his level.
yeah, absolutely. And coming from a jazz background too,
Right.
because a lot of times I would see other jazz musicians try to do that who didn't end up just being completely close to it, or snobs. They just wanted to do it, but it just never came out right. Versus people from the other side, meaning not having a pure jazz background, who injected jazz elements into their music, and it somehow it sounded more, you know, um, what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of disingenuous, like believable, more real.
Right.
It just sounded, yeah, and not like, well, what can we
Right.
get away with, but Herbie managed to do that, and he's, as well as being the genius improviser that he is. So,
Right. And to
well,
be
you
able
have
to,
quite a track record yourself there, Kirky.
what's that? I'm sorry.
I said you have quite a track record yourself there.
Well, man, thanks to all you guys that were so embracing when I came onto the scene. Again, I mean, I've told the story a million times, but when Jeff Picaro called me, one of my heroes, along with you and everybody else, just, when you get a call from your hero and he's inviting you to sit at the table and brings you under his arm, man, that's what do you say to that? You just have to answer the call, And I'll never forget when he called. He said, "Your life's about to change next week. Be at Schnee's studio Monday at 10 a.m." And from that point on, that was 1992. It all changed.
He was right, exactly.
It all changed.
God
But
bless
man, I
him.
remember going to see you guys play at the Potato, Le Cafe, all the clubs around town, and just
Yeah,
it was amazing because I used to sneak into the studios and watch you guys record a movie or an album, where it's really restricted drumming and
yeah,
then just blowing at night at the clubs. And I just thought, wow, this is such a musical experience. And
yeah, yeah. It was it. Well, thank you. I mean, and those were the
days, my
days, my friend.
friend. Right.
Well, and many of those clubs are gone now. That whole kind of social environment and the way things were done are all, it's all over. So it's just a different world now. But yeah, I remember that too. And and Jeff was like that. That's just the kind of person he was. He
Right.
had a heart of gold, and I mean, I really can't think of anybody else that would have done that. For
Yeah.
us, he did the same thing for me. He helped me. He embraced us. So that's
Yeah. And I
amazing.
think whether he knew it or not, it was about him kind of foreseeing where it was all going in the future. Like he was kind of like, okay, when he called me, he was starting to shift into the production chair and he wanted me to be one of his guys. And I obviously it's an honor, but I could see that he was wanting to expand. It was like, okay, I'm doing Toto, I'm doing sessions. Where's the next chair? And I call it the Richie Cunningham effect. Richie Cunningham, right? Ron
Yeah,
Howard, he was Opie.
right.
Then he shifted into Happy Days as Richie Cunningham.
Hmm.
And then now he's
Yeah,
this insane director, writer, uh,
yeah,
movie guy, and it's just the natural course for us to go.
yeah. It seems like a natural progression. Yeah, although there's some guys that have just been doing dates and they're still doing it for years who have been there way before us.
True.
I can think of a couple, and they're happy doing that.
Right.
Um, so yeah, whatever your calling is, I think it's great. It's all good. However you want to approach it. I mean, we're players, but that doesn't mean we can't also write or have another way to express our voice. Like I like taking pictures too. I mean, it's different than drumming. Drumming came natural to me, so it, yeah, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. And I think so many I'll just keep it in the drumming lane. I think
Yeah.
a lot of drummers just think of themselves only as a drummer, but I, there's so many other assets that we have as drummers. Like you said, you do photography and you do a
Well, we're
podcast.
arrangers too. We're like, one of my friends called me. I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
Kirky, but one of my friends said, "Oh, you guys are like the goalies. You're a goalie." I said, "Okay, that's a great way to look at it." But we're arrangers too in a lot of ways. So, we are musicians that happen to play the drums, and I don't say that as a backlash from some kind of internal insecurity, like, "Oh, you're a drummer, musician's best friend," or any kind of garbage like that. We're musicians, and this is our instrument, and that's how we express ourselves. I mean, to me, there's a whole the drum set, as a recently emerging instrument, really, in the grand scheme of things, is a whole orchestra. So, that's our orchestra, man. The drums.
it is, and not only is it the foundation and the bouillabaisse, if you will, of of the
Yeah.
of the music, but physically where
Boss.
we sit
Yeah.
on the bandstand,
Yeah.
we see it all.
Yeah.
Not only do we hear it all, but we see it all. We see the reflection of the audience. We see the interaction between the other musicians with us, the drummer and the audience and the artist. And we could sit here all day and talk about all the artists you played with and their quirks and certain movements that mean something. But that's one of the things that I think as drummers, and maybe we could dive into this a bit, is that we're masterful at reading body language. Are we not?
Yes, I think so. I think we should be, and not only body language, but this other kind of radar that gets developed. Um, that where you're bouncing the ball back and forth on stage beyond and faster than the speed of thought. And that happens a lot of times in an improvisatory setting, like in a jazz setting. But like you say, if we're sitting there and we have that seat and we're watching all this happen, and we have to observe body language, especially from, let's say, the singer, it's incumbent upon us to sort of uh, be responsive to that, and it can actually change the course of events, how it's going to go on stage that night, and also I think that because of that seat that we have, we're not there concerned about, hey, everybody's looking at me all the time, so I have to do something really flashy. I have to do something visually flashy in order to captivate their attention. We can concentrate on the music. Now, having said that, you know, I mean, we could then branch off into another tangent here about, well, Krupa brought the drums into the forefront in the 40s, and modern rock drummers have twirled their sticks and, juggled and, all this sort of stuff, and really, continue that into this, what's happening now, which is really kind of the attention economy. That's really what it is. It's so it's sort of like you have to keep doing things to continually captivate people's attention all the time visually, which to me, I mean, that's all well and good, but it was never part of, and still doesn't need to be part of the lexicon of the drumming language, or the responsibility of what it means to be a drummer. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you old fogey, that figures you'd say that, you boomer." And it's not about being a boomer. I never once saw Tony Williams, who, I'm sorry, played a lot of high content stuff, or Max Roach or Alvin Jones. Max Roach fanned the hi hat, okay, but I never saw DeJohnette or Alvin or Tony or any of those guys sit around and start juggling their sticks. They were concentrating on playing the music and really elevating their content, meaning the conceptual depth of what they were playing. So, and if that's the school that I come from, so be it.
So be it.
And
Right.
also the recording school of, we're here to make a record. Now everybody has to have a behind the scenes now, and I can get that to a certain extent, but we're making a record, not a movie. Like, what are you, Spielberg now? What are my lines? Am I the bad guy or the good guy? Give me the script.
Right.
Oh, I got to join AFTRA now. It's going to cost you. You know what I mean? It's like at some point we have to sort of understand what these diversions are, and they can be diversions.
Right.
But they're normalized now. They're normalized.
Right.
So I just, but for me, just being able to do what you were talking about, reading the body language, that all happens when we're all in the same room together, concentrating on each other.
Right.
And so that's really what that's about.
And serving the music, not ourselves.
Well, yeah, instead of just trying to look good on camera because I'm filming myself now,
Right.
I mean,
right. Now that brings up something that I want to move into, which is social media. Do you feel that with all these drummers, which they're all amazing, and there are even beginners, which I love personally, that content, because I remember starting off, God, I would be scared to play in front of my parents, but now these kids are just putting up a camera and they're playing, and it is what it is, and they're coming into it and they're learning. And I think that is a really really important aspect of getting into something, whether it be bicycle motocross or track running or F1 racing or kite flying, or just showing those building blocks and what we do. Do you think it could be hindering at times because there's so much content out there, and there's all these great drummers and then these beginning drummers and drummers in between? Is it just too much? Unlike when we were coming up, where there was a magazine, there were things that we could read, there were books, there were, you were one of the forefronts of VHS videotapes on instruction. Where do you feel this stands today?
That's a great question. It's a loaded one. I mean, it is what it is, and people are used to it now. But the thing about humanity is we can get used to anything, and that could be good or bad.
Right.
You're going to feed the good wolf or feed the bad wolf. Which one is social media? It can be both, but it almost reminds me a bit of the Matrix, where you plug it in. Oh, okay, in 5 seconds, kung fu. Now I'm an expert. Praying mantis style. Okay, great. No, I wanted the Shaolin. No problem. We got that too. Or and it's all laid out in front of you, and it's not really like cramming for a test, but when you assimilate things that quickly, I think what ends up happening, though, what can happen is, it's easy to emulate that visually, and then you can run the risk of sameness, which is absolutely counter to what we were talking about before, having 10 guys play the same very, very simple groove and being able to tell who they are, regardless of sound. So, back then, that individuality was not only championed, but it was recognizable. So, I think that may be one inherent thing with social media, but the thing is that people don't care anymore, and it's moving very, very quickly. The other thing I want to say about it is that to me, the whole thing is process. And I always want to have something to look forward to versus, hey, I got it all together, man. I'm at the top of the mountain. I got to wake up tomorrow and do what? Just revel in my own ego, that I am the greatest, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I didn't have anything to look forward to, and some people will say, well, that's not what happens, as a result of this. You can always get better, but you're pushing the bar so much that your whole focus is pushing the bar until it becomes superhuman. Then you're going to be the first one to embrace the singularity, or being the sort of android that's a mixture of organic human and do anything to make my arms and feet faster. Yeah, bring it on. It's like the whole thing is process. I want to have something to look forward to. All of this stuff is happening and accelerating at a rate that's, I think, too frenzied, because we didn't, our humanity, we didn't evolve that way. It's taken over the speed at which we can really assimilate it. And some may argue against that with me, saying, well, you only use 5% of your brain anyway. We're just going to unlock it. Okay, fine. But, again, process. The joy is in the process. So, if we take our focus off of that, we may do that at our own peril, because it will be easy to get sucked into things that will make us think we're superhuman, but we may not belong to ourselves anymore. So that's the end of my rant on that.
Yeah. So in wrapping up our conversation here, I really want to know what you think, just, the 3 to 5 year trajectory of where drumming's going, the music industry. I know that's a loaded question, but you've been
I don't think there is a there
in the
is
game
there
for
is
so long, man, and you've seen it come and you've seen it go. I'll never forget the great Joe Porcaro saying that every 10 years, Kirky B, you're going to see a change. And he was right. When I got in the game in the mid 80s until now, every decade, I saw a drastic change, and have gone through musician union strikes. But where do you see the next 3 to 5 years, specifically
it's
as a
hard to
drummer?
say, because I think that AI is rapidly encroaching upon us at an alarming rate, and the technology is probably at a place that's far beyond what we think it is. And I'm not saying that to sound conspiratorial. It's highly plausible that that's the case, and it wouldn't be the first time that happened. So I think that will affect all of us, and that's what we have to look at. And it's that particular genie that's been let out of the bottle is the first in human history, obviously. So it's really hard to say. As I said earlier, it can go either way. I mean, I'm not really sure, because right now we've gone so far into sensationalism that the pendulum may swing again to, a different focus on what music is. But it's too. I think right now it's too hard to predict. I couldn't do it. I have no idea where it's going to go. I really don't.
Yeah, I just think, the most logical thing is grab on, hang on tight, and just see where it goes,
Buckle up.
and remain yourself throughout.
Yeah, I think so. I think that probably the best thing we could do is, like, why are we doing this? We do it because we love it. And if we interact with other people, whether or not it's on a teacher or student kind of a relationship, or with other people in an ensemble setting, then we shouldn't be thinking, we're behind the times or any of that. No, we are just socially interacting as humans the way that we were meant to do.
Right. And then my last question, Vin,
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? Being the maestro that you are, and have been there and done that over and time again.
Yeah, I really don't know. It's too hard to say, because the world is in too much flux. So I do see myself sort of where I'm at right now, is just trying to sort of sit back and enjoy life differently. And again, just doing what I do because I love it, and doing things that I want to do. And I think, that's a healthy thing.
Yeah. And that proves it time and time again, because we all know and we all love you, and we all just look to you as our guiding light when it comes to drumming. And I know there are people that are watching this right now saying the same thing. So I just want to say, Vinnie Colaiuta, thank you for doing my show, man. This is like incredible. I hope all of you out there watching this and listening can take this and put it in a part of your heart, and take it into it, and This is the man. There's no other.
Oh, oh, bless your heart, Kirky, my old friend, brother.
Yes,
Thank you for
man.
having me. It's a real honor, and
Oh, man. Likewise.
God bless
And,
you and everybody out there.
yes. And for those who want to follow you on social media and be social with you, where can we do that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, on Twitter, X now, which is
X.
X, and Facebook. I don't administer Facebook, but you can get me there on all of those platforms. Also, like I said, Breakfast with Vinnie. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and www.breakfastwithvinnie.com. I hope you guys enjoy it.
I certainly do. I've listened to every episode, and I can't wait for the video versions.
Right on. Thank you.
Vinnie Colaiuta, thank you, my brother. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. The Cricket Bee Show.
Amen. All right.